call this meeting to order and would like to thank all you for being here, those here, and those that are... Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? All right. Okay, I call this meeting to order and would like to thank you for being here tonight. Also those that are viewing us on live stream, and we thank you. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Amy Boy.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There are a few addendum materials for the on the following topics. There's the supplemental financial data, human resource report, media and communications report, Head Start monthly report, building leadership, new teacher and professional development update, fall athletic schedule, the district safety grant application, and written comment on agenda items. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addendum. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda with the addendum.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I forgot to ask for a discussion. Is there any discussion? Okay, that motion passed. Next on the agenda is to approve the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the following minutes as presented. Special meeting for Highland High School future planning July 5th and a regular board meeting July 18th. Is there a motion?
Go ahead.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. That motion passed. Next on the agenda is approve the consent agenda, which includes authorization of payment of claims, approving the supplemental financial information, and approving the human resource activity. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passed. Next on the agenda are self-explanatory reports, which include Idaho General Fund Revenue Report, the final food service summer park program report, the surplus property auction results, the media and community relations report, and Head Start monthly program report, and that's for information only. So next on the agenda, we have public or written comment on topics not pertinent to the agenda. Action items, no written comment, or I do have no written comment. But I do have two requests for public comment. And we will start with Daniel Harrington.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Board. I've spoke here before, and I'm back to expand on a topic that most of you on the board says was too specific for your policy, and I have many of reasons. So you go and you have things to report. You know, teachers are mandatory reporters, so they are. If you have a bad grade, a D, a midterm, they report to your parents. If you're skipping class, they report to your parents. If you have bad behavior, fighting, disobeying authority, they report to your adult at home. If you have a law enforcement interaction, they report to you to a parent at home. If a student's being bullied, they report to a parent at home. If a student is not 18 years or younger, you guys should be telling parents. If they are 18 years or younger, you guys should be telling parents everything that goes on, including the name and gender changes in a student. So, and I talked to Mr. Howell after Deanna Judy brought up the motion, and then I came back with 86 petitions. And I would like you guys to take this into consideration, that 86 parents out there actually care about their students. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to threaten you guys. I'm saying this because I would love for you to bring that motion back up and take it into consideration. And there's plenty of, like in Idaho law, right here, Title 32, Chapter 10, it says a parental right to the care, custody, and control of a child. Parents who have legal custody of any minor child or children have the fundamental right to make decisions concerning their case, custody, and control. So you guys, it's their right to know what their name is or what their gender is. You know, if they're not telling their parents, and then, okay, so then there's the counterclaim of abuse, which I know it's a real thing. Abuse is a real thing. But then you guys have a policy here about child abuse. So if a student says, hey, I would like to be called this, it's whatever. But if you tell their parent and then they come back and say I'm being abused for it, then you should have obeyed by this child abuse policy. So I don't see any reason why that is way too specific to go into the policy. And the policy that I'm talking about is the one that says if there are known changes to a student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being, school personnel are responsible to notify the student's parent/legal guardian of such changes. You guys are mandatory reporters. I've had teachers that said, oh, if you say that, I have to report. So if I say that I want to be a girl, you guys don't have to report to a parent? I don't see how that's too specific.
So I know we're not supposed to address, but I would like to address. Only because I got called out for having said no to this policy. And the reason it was done so
Okay.
is because it's a broad policy that covers everything, including what you're bringing up.
Yes.
It was unnecessary to make a specific address. So that I just want to clarify that.
So do you not
So
feel?
there's no need to bring it up because it covers everything.
Well, then,
We
No,
don't. But
If you'd like,
I said,
I can meet with
I
you.
got called out as being against the policy.
I didn't once call you out if you're saying that I
And I
did.
am not against the policy. That I just want to make that clear.
I didn't once call you out
Sorry.
Sorry.
in any way. But if you'd like to meet, I'm always welcome to meet with people.
Absolutely.
would you like to clarify? Would you like me to also clarify?
Actually, again, we
We-
usually
I,
don't
I,
really
Just
I
get
know,
out of
I
here.
know that we're not supposed to do that,
No,
but
this is,
there is definitely a
So we
reason
can bring
I
it up
brought
as
that
a
motion.
board and,
Of course,
to revisit if you'd like. I know
sure,
we've had a request and so
Sure.
we can take it back through the board.
sure, that's,
So my question is, does it have to, do we have to have all 85 of these parents to come here and speak at this podium for you to change your mind?
You can leave those with Ms. Johnson, and I'm sure the board will take a look at them.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next, we have Carla Aylworth. She's not here. Okay. All righty. Well, then we'll move on. Okay. We'll now move on to reports, which includes the Pocatello Chubbuck School District Roadmap for the safe return to in-person instruction for the 2023-2024 school year, which will be presented by Courtney Fisher. Thank you.
Okay, included in your packet for review before the meeting was the 2023-2024 roadmap for the safe return to in-person instruction. So I'm sure you've all had a chance to look at that. This is just required by the State Department through 2025. So you will look at this one more time, but we made revisions, and basically they are just formatting revisions. We did change one. We changed the language from adding remote wireless access points to just continuing those, just to change because we've already added them. But that was basically the only change. So with that, you will be taking action on this later in the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is curriculum and instructions, school safety and athletics, and we will turn the time over to Amy Boy.
Good evening. I'm going to start with a BLT review, an update on our building leadership team meetings in the buildings on August 7th. And then I'm going to turn the time over to Kathy Luris to talk to you a little bit about the PD calendar and new teacher orientation. She does so much of the hard work on that part. I wanted her to give that update to you. So I'll start with the building leadership team retreat, and you can glance through that agenda. We give a pretty robust agenda, and here's why. So first, let's talk about the building leadership retreat is. The building leadership teams meet with their principals in the buildings, and they make plans and set goals. They review data for the upcoming school year. And so our goal this year was to understand the importance of staying focused on reinvigorating the classroom and cultivating joy. That's our focus this year, as we plan to make as we make plans for increasing student engagement, create a relevant and meaningful school improvement plan, and develop strategies that will bring us closer to our school district vision. So then, in the agenda, you can see we went through introducing that focus, looking at data, identifying areas of strength and weaknesses, setting goals, and really, I think one of the things we've done the last couple of years is the problem with annual improvement planning, as you set your goal at the beginning of the year and real life sets in, right? And so you don't come back to that. So we had some articles and some thought-provoking things for them to set 90-day goals throughout the year. I will tell you this: it's a pretty robust outline, and we did that because we wanted principals and buildings to be flexible and do what was best for their building. I went to and then we all went out to buildings to see what was going on. I'll leave you with this: I think it was a huge success. I went to 5 buildings, and every building that I went into, the enthusiasm and the excitement for planning a new school year, looking at their data, having good conversations about their data and where they wanted to make improvements. I was impressed with every single building, and I got that back from other directors and coordinators as well. So I just wanted you to know that went really well. The feedback from principals was that they really thought it was effective, and they loved doing it in their own building and having some autonomy over those building leadership team meetings. So it went really well.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on our professional development program. I just want to start with a note that our professional development program aligns with Idaho Code, which requires that teachers receive mentoring and support within the initial 3 years of their profession. It also aligns to the Idaho mentoring standards, the Idaho content standards, and district initiatives. So we'll start with new staff orientation. And our new staff, attended 4 days of professional development last week. That's staff new to the profession, as well as new to the district, and we had about 62, I think, in attendance. And those first 4 days are really vital to the start of their year. Teachers hear from Superintendent Howell about the mission and vision of our district. They begin to develop relationship with district support staff, such as curriculum, human resources, the elementary and secondary director, as well as the new teacher consultants who will be providing their support throughout the year. They also receive information about their core curriculum. Where do you find that core curriculum? What do you do if you're missing 5 books? What do you need on the very first day? How do you log in and take attendance? All of those things. And we received really good feedback, and I just want to share this one email with you. This teacher is new to the district but has been in the profession for 15 years and just noted that I'm going into my 15th year of teaching. I'm usually a bucket of nerves at this time. Even though I'm going into a new school year after this week's training, I have the calmest feeling. I know that the resources are available to me, and I know who to seek are available to me, and who to ask if questions arise. I appreciate the efforts. And we received that from many new staff. They just really appreciate and feel supported.
I can echo that. I actually was at a picnic this past weekend where there was a new teacher from another district that was overwhelmed with this amount of support and commented on how wonderful that new training orientation was. So
Thank you for that.
yeah,
feedback.
that was great.
Part of a new teacher's experience, they are assigned a building mentor. So the new staff orientation And new teacher training is about district systems, district curriculum, expectations for management, district technology. They also have a building mentor who supports them with the systems within their building, and they meet their mentor on that day and then are provided with that support throughout the year. So on this calendar, all of the blue are support that's provided to teachers within their first 3 years. You can see the first year is more intense than the third year, and in fact, the third year really turns into a coaching cycle where the consultants are start with what goal do they want to set and coach them throughout the year. I also did want to note that our instructional consultants are also, although teachers are receiving instruction about curriculum, classroom management, intellectual engagement, those instructional consultants are also in their classrooms and available for mentoring, for observations, for feedback that is non-evaluative, okay? I just wanted to point out a few more things on there because you can see we have a really comprehensive PD program. Anytime we have a new adoption, we provide professional development initially and then as needed throughout the year. So as you know, this year we had a K-5 ELA adoption, so we'll provide professional development, and that's articulated here. Some of that's in person and some of that's virtual. We also had a Spanish adoption, and that their initial training will be on the 18th. Another one I wanted to point out is Instruction Camp. And CAMP stands for Meeting and Collaborating Periodically. And that's really driven and facilitated by teachers. It's an opportunity where teachers come together, they talk about district curriculum and how effective implementation, and they share ideas, and they receive a stipend for attending that. Excuse me. We're really excited about November 7th. That's Election Day, as you know. And we've chosen to have that a professional development day that we're going to call, because our teachers seem to really love that. We tried calling it something else one year, and they just said, oh, you mean Pick Your Passion. So Pick Your Passion is a day where they will be provided with professional development for the most part from their colleagues. So we're excited about that. And then I also want to highlight, we have classes that are after school, and they're elementary and secondary specific, called Terrific Tech Tools. And as you know, educational technology is changing rapidly. And this class supports teachers with the effective implementation of that. And I just listed some here. There's Google Classroom, Vivi, Infinite Campus, ViewSonic, Surface Pros, Chromebooks. And so teachers receive instruction on how to really implement that effectively to support learner engagement and achievement. And the last thing I just want to say to you is, as you know, our certified staff are required to accumulate 6 credits every 5 years for recertification. Anytime our professional development is 15 hours, we offer that for professional development either through district in-service or through ISU credit, because we don't want our teachers to have to go search for credits to get recertified. We want them to receive credit for the PD that's really making the difference in our district. So do you want to finish with that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just add, if you notice on there that all of those trainings are being held now at the Hawthorne Middle School Professional Learning Annex. So that, just for your information, is up and running, and it's a space, and we're making it warm as fast as we can. And it's much warmer with new teachers who are happy. So that helped fill the space really well. Do you want me to go to the next? That's all we have on that item. Do you want me to go to the next agenda item about the alternate route to graduation? Okay. One learner at New Horizon High School completed the alternate route to graduation in place of the ISAT requirement for graduation in ELA, math, and/or science. The school administrator signed off on the completion of the alternate route, and the learner's forms are filed in the curriculum department. I request that the board approve the alternate route to graduation request for this learner as they successfully completed the coursework.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, next we have A.J. Watson will provide an elementary enrollment program and staffing update.
Good evening, board members. I wanted to provide you with just a quick update. Last week we talked a little bit about elementary numbers, and so I wanted to give you some more specific numbers. Just as a reminder, these are preliminary. We're about a week away, so we'll still have a few more learners that will register and walk through our doors. But as of right now, we have 4,903 elementary learners that have registered. We had 7 that were overloads. An overload is a learner that we do not have classroom capacity for at their home school. So we held our transfer meeting the week prior, and we had 7 that we had to overload to another elementary school. Compared to last year, we are currently seeing a decline. Compared to last year, we're down about 278 learners in elementary compared to last year as far as our enrollment goes. Like I said, we'll get a few more as we get closer, and a few more will show up on the first day, but preliminary numbers are showing a decrease in our enrollment for this year.
How are those overloads determined? Is it first come, first served, and then, so?
Correct. So those who register, who come in last, those overloads, so those that we can get into the class, and it's just by date. So those as they walk in, and date-wise, if they register based on that time, then those are the ones that are overloaded.
Where they want to go, or do you already have?
So we have sister schools that we use because of transportation, because we do provide them with transportation. And some of them will get in because we all know that first day of school, we maybe have 2. We've tried to confirm the best we can that don't show up in a grade level. And so as soon as we can get them back in within a reasonable amount of time, they are given that opportunity to come back if they would like with those overloads.
Okay, we saw how many are overload, how many of them are way under?
School number-wise,
Yeah.
our schools are all down for the most part. There's a few, but number-wise, they're lower than they were last year, obviously, with the
And what's your average class size,
decrease.
would you say?
That's hard to say based on school. I mean, anywhere from, because of different grade levels, it really depends on the school and the grade. I mean, we're anywhere from 20 to, there may be a few that have less than that right now because of some lower numbers, especially in kindergarten. We saw a decrease we're down about 88 learners compared to where we were at last year in kindergarten. So some of those class sizes are under 20, and then we have those that are all the way at capacity up to 30. So it just varies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How many schools were overloaded? I know there were 7.
2, Idaho and Gate City both had grades at those schools that were overloaded. Not all of them. Gate City actually was able to accept some transfers this year. Even Idaho in one grade level accepted a few open enrollment transfers. So just specifically certain grades that were full at those schools.
Oh, okay. So some are under, but there's just a couple that are.
Correct. A couple grades. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll have Sue Pettit report on the following: secondary enrollment, program and staffing update, policy 8106, district attendance area and student transfer, first reading.
So for secondary, we are actually fully staffed, and currently our middle schools are about 52 above, and our high schools are about 36 below where they were last year, but we're getting online registrations daily, so the numbers just keep going up. Currently, there are 6,025 secondary students in the district, and we are looking forward to being full.
So does that include the 6th grade?
That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep,
Okay.
6 through 12. Yep. Okay. Policy 8106. That was a policy we brought last time when you approved it, and then we discovered, oops, we left a sentence or 2 out. So I point out for the open enrollment transfer policies, part of it was that it could be denied, a transfer could be denied if there was a significant disciplinary issue. We forgot to add that is not directly related to the child's disability. So that's been added. And then one of the sentences in the back on the last page under open enrollment transfers requests during school year, it said the director of secondary education for the director will notify the parent of the decision for the reason for denial. They didn't give me an opportunity to approve any. So we did add that sentence in there that the director may approve or deny, and that way, and we had seen that before we brought it to you last time and then just missed it. So we're asking for adoption and first reading on that one because that's the minor changes that we put in that policy. Okay? And that's it for me.
Thank you. Next, we have Tanya Wilkes will report on the following: policy 8501, student discipline, second reading; policy 8512, rights of homeless students, foster students, and equal access to services; Policy 8703, Idaho High School Athletic Association, sanctioned athletic events and activities, out-of-state and overnight travel, and fall athletic schedule.
That was a mouthful, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was for me anyway.
Good evening, Chair and board members. This is the second reading on each of these policies. We'll first address 8501, where we took language. We got feedback from our lead SRO, Officer Barchi, to input language straight from the law. So that is directly from the law, where shall notify the parent guardian if a student has or may be questioned by a school resource officer or other law enforcement official, unless the child is a victim or suspected of child abuse. Do we have any questions? Okay, and then our next policy, the rights of homeless students and foster. We just added the foster portion and made it a procedures and policy. We did not change anything other than adding the language of foster care. We are posting that on our website as well. I am the liaison on that, so we want to make sure that that is public. Okay, and then the next one is the policy 8703. We have an increase of students that are homeschooled that want to participate in our athletics portion, so we wanted to make sure that, just similar to the high school and middle school, initial eligibility and ongoing eligibility. Is there any questions just following that IHSAA rule? Okay.
Nope.
And then out-of-state overnight travel, we just have one request with the cross-country team from Pocatello High School going to Salt Lake City for their cross-country meet. Is any questions in regard to that? And then,
Yeah, it said, I know it was just a typo. It said number of adults was 5, and then it said ratio, and it said 14. I think there should have been a slash in there, right?
oh, yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
1 to 4, thank you. All right, and then the last is our fall athletic schedule, and there's quite a bit in there. We did have an addendum with the Century High School cheer. We wanted that, make sure that was added. There is going to be one correction with the Century High School cross country. We have some concerns at being up Mint Creek, so we're looking for an alternative placement for that too. But other than that, we are ready to go.
Cool.
The weather is good.
There's a lot
So
of work.
where will Highland play? I know last time it was a little bit up in the air still looking.
Yeah, we had the Holt Arena reserved, and then that got alternated. So our first game will not be a Friday night; it'll be a Saturday night at Lookout Stadium for Highland High School and Skyline. And then we are crossing fingers and hoping that we are ready to go September 8th. That's the agreement right now, to be done that day so that we can play that game at Highland High School. And that's against Century High School. So if that doesn't happen, then we will probably play that at Century High School.
I see. And so is there a fallback to go to the Holt Arena for the second game, or that first and second were both of them a no?
Both of them are no.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony, appreciate it. Okay, next we'll move on to business operation reports, will be presented by Jonathan Balls, and he'll report on the Highland High School update, the PV Tech update, the summer project update, policy 5104, purchasing guide, first reading, Design West architect agreement, Bateman Hall, construction management, general contractor agreement, Calvary Chapel temporary use agreement, district safety grant application, and Dick's Sporting Goods grant agreement.
Okay, so that's, good evening, board members. I know that's quite a few, but we'll go through this and get just the information that you need. First, on a Highland update, our demo is complete regarding all the high work. So walls are down, all the beams are down. Now we've got a few piles of debris that still is being cleaned up, and a few of these monster beams that are being cut in half and hauled off. But that will continue over the next maybe day and a half, but then they will be done as well. They're shoring up the walls that are remaining, barricading some. There's actually some stairs that need to be barricaded off so they don't go up onto the roof. Some stairways going down into the basement that will also be barricaded off, so they no longer have access there. So we're excited about that. The work on the small gym to redo the floor started yesterday, and so we anticipate. That's the wood has been acclimating for several weeks, and they're starting to lay the subfloor now. They anticipate that should be about 4 to 5 weeks, so we're looking at mid-September to be able to have access, and that'll be great for both our PE during the day and some of our volleyball, basketball in the fall there.
Did you decide on a place for the PE during the day while that's getting finished?
So that'll, I know the Highland administration is working on that. We're obviously good weather. We'll be able to go to the fields, or at least the upper field, and until that time. So, and the good thing, teachers will be back tomorrow into Highland. Their rooms have been cleaned twice. Once kind of midsummer and once just this last week. So their spaces should be really good. The upper B, lower B got a new fresh coat of paint on them. So they'll be ready there. The air has been on in the entire building for about a week. And so we wanted to get that tested, make sure there wasn't any smell of smoke, and there's not any smell of smoke there. And of course our final, we'll get some official air readings there, but they will come back clean. So we are working a little bit in the hallways. So for the next 2 days, putting up some speakers, doing some of the electrical things in the hallway. But the majority of the ceiling panels are installed, and we're just working on those. And then this coming weekend, our local cleaning company, working with Paul Davis, they will clean the building again thoroughly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so that'll be good and ready there. I wanted to update again. A big push was the fire system and the sprinkler system. And again, we've been passing off our initial inspections. There's several different components that have to be inspected and passed off, and then can proceed. Those have been going well. And so we anticipate our final inspection and actually energizing the system will happen on Friday. So just wanted to let you aware, again, in the sense of utmost precaution, we're actually having a dedicated person being there during the day.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, yep. Our good fire officials have asked for it's a fire watch. It'll be an hourly watch that they'll walk the entire building, keep logs, and that will be their only assignment.
And is that to keep kids from going into the areas? Or when you
It's
say
really
fire
just
watch?
to it's for life safety. So in the event in the event that something were to happen, this person would alert the rest of the building through the phone system and so forth. And so, but yes, they would be that security, make sure everything is fine there. So that's something that we'll get that person in place starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, and go from there. The one thing that we're still waiting on some sprinkler parts for the auditorium, so we will not have access to the auditorium for about 1 to 2 weeks. So we've worked with our building officials, and they said we're okay to do that. We will lock. No one will have access except for our workers into the auditorium until that's done, inspected, and fully energized.
So does that include the classrooms?
Nope, classrooms are good. Classrooms are done. It's just save that auditorium just because of those high ceilings. There's some extra components to that auditorium, and so that's what's delaying it just a little bit. We were so close, but again, we're working with the grade officials that we're able to just lock that part down. No one will have access. The drama, they'll be able to start in their classrooms, who usually use that. Yep. And then also this weekend into First and Next, the construction fence will start to be pulled back closer to the building, obviously to keep our staff and learners safe around the building, but then it will free up some more parking spots there closer to the building. So we'll be working on that. Again, all this events coming, it'll kind of culminate, all the cleaning, everything, for Tuesday afternoon is the back to school at Highland. Freshmen will get their orientation and starting late afternoon, and then in the evening, the rest of the students and parents will be able to come and to be in that building. And then, of course, the 23rd, we'll have students back in Highland High School. So we'll be there, kind of take some pictures and so forth. I do want to caution, as we've talked and cautioned everyone. Unfortunately, I wish all the problems will go away on the 23rd, but there might be some hiccups along the way. Make sure our plans are good. So we're going to continue to monitor our off-campus locations for those displaced programs, as well as, for example, even on-site with food service, and make sure that whole process is working correctly. But we're excited to be and have a lot of great joy in bringing back, the Highland students back up on the hill.
So when you say you'll have people at these offsite, are you going to kind of spread administrators out there other than just the teachers that are there? Or
That's a good question. I believe they do have plans to do that. Obviously, to be in communication at the minimal part is, okay, how are your classes going? That's first day. Is there anything you need? And then, of course, we'll be on call as well. So I don't know those exact plans, but I'm positive that they're in place.
I'm wondering, along the same lines, wouldn't you need another staff member at each of those locations, other than the teacher, just to kind of security, that kind of thing? And my follow-up question is, if we do need that, would the insurance pay for that? Because they can't just fall under the umbrella of security, administration, everybody at Highland, because they're not there.
So the good thing is, again, these displaced classes are classes. So you're talking, for the weights at the Gateway, that's a class of 30, and I'm not sure exactly the numbers, but it's just a class weight. So I would anticipate there wouldn't be an on-site administrator at these locations. Same thing with band, same thing with choir. Obviously, they would be on call, and I know communication will be key there.
I just mean in the hallway, not an administrator, but just somebody in the hallway monitoring the kind of comings and goings. I was mostly worried about Calvary Chapel.
Calvary Chapel, that's what I was.
Is all I was thinking
Okay.
of is, if they go to the bathroom, there have been some, things that have happened in our bathrooms. I'm just wondering if there's someone that would be covering kind of that whole area, just to be sure that the Calvary Chapel is well taken care of.
And that's
In and out of bathrooms or whatever the case may be. And along with that, would the insurance pay for that? Because it is off-site, and that is an additional cost we would not have to have. Is that too much?
So as I'm
Sure.
looking at Mrs. Pettit, she's nodding her head. I imagine the Highland administration has a plan for walkthroughs and,
Okay.
and we'll follow up, she will, and we'll make sure that that's adequately covered
Okay.
and that we're being responsible leasees
correct.
for,
Yeah.
for
And that the
opportunity.
insurance will pay for it?
I'm sure they will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we need additional assistance that way.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll monitor that. And again, you have the Calvary Chapel lease that we'll talk about later. And of course, we need to be good partners so we can stay, for a year or two.
I guess I'm also, the whole logistics of our kids being bused there.
Correct.
And
It will
so
be bused.
their class period's going to be shortened to account for that, or, sorry, Sue.
Probably just for
It's
the,
only 2
Yep.
minutes. that we
Well,
have
but
to
you're
drop.
loading a bus and unloading a bus and,
So they have 5 minutes in between classes. So the bus will load within a minute of that first bell.
this seems very optimistic.
I
but
know,
okay.
it is, and it'll take a minute or so to load. And then 2 minutes to drive over, less than 2 minutes to drive over and unload. And so they'll be leaving Calvary Chapel about 2 minutes early and coming back to Highland. So their classes will be about 2 minutes short.
Yeah.
And ISUs, because they're double classes and they don't have the break in between, so they have an extra 5 minutes in there, they're actually starting about 5 to 10 minutes later and gonna get out about 5 minutes early to come back, just for the drive time.
And
So-
since that's an optional thing, that would
Correct.
not affect core
Correct.
classes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, one more question. How's the home ec room coming?
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Excellent. It is a great transformation. Dr. Hall and I were in there this afternoon, and so the cabinets are almost, the cabinets are all installed. The doors are almost there. The plumbing will be installed tomorrow. And then on Friday, they'll start to move some of they want one last coat on the floor to wax it. And then on Friday, they'll start loading the shelves in there. So it's been amazing how quickly they've been able to do that. So that is a brand new room with new electricity.
Water damage, right?
Yeah, that was the Christmas.
Down to the studs, right? The-
Yeah, correct. It was torn way down to the studs, insulated.
All the mold was abated?
Correct. Everything was cleaned and new electrical outlets run, because you heard even last Tuesday that was some of the issues in that room, and that's been resolved. So in that regard, that'll be the newest classroom in Highland.
Thank you.
Okay, my next topic, again, didn't want to, that it's still, we're still working on our PV Tech building over there. Again, it's still a priority for the district. This is our 5 classes will begin in the fall. And so we've accommodated busing for that. And I know Mrs. Naffs is excited to welcome students into that building. Regarding the remainder of the building, we have still been working with it's RM Steel out of in Caldwell for a donation of that metal building, and we're very close in getting drawings, and that's as we get the drawings, what is needed for the foundation of that metal building, we're actually going out to bid. And that's probably a good thought on that process. Again, we've updated you. It's been a month, several weeks before on that. These last several weeks, they've been detailing these drawings. Plumbing, electrical, structural. That way, the bidders have detailed drawings for in which to bid. And so those bids will come back September 6th.
And this is for the whole building?
This is for the entire building.
entire building.
So, correct. So we wanted to have that big number, and then we'll see how we're going forward. Again, we appreciate, and we'll bring the board to the donation document of how much it's gonna cost us and how much we're gonna be able to receive as by way of donation. And let me mention this because we're very excited about this. Again, through our legislature last year, $45 million was appropriated for CTE major capital projects. And so, again, with Ms. Pettit and Ms. Naffs, they've been talking with those that will approve those, and they knew we had a big project coming, and we were kind of feeling out how much we should ask for. And so we asked for a large, several $1 million that would basically cover this project. And so we've submitted that grant application, and as soon as we get approved, either for the full amount or a modified amount, we will obviously let the board know.
Do you have an expectation of when they're supposed to award it?
I'm looking for Sue.
Well,
I think it was.
I don't know
I
if
think
she
it was
knows.
within a month. I thought
Yeah.
it was fairly quick.
Fairly quick.
They want.
Don't
to
they,
be
they
able-
have three more submission dates or something? Yeah.
So, my recollection is that they're going to be looking at this right after the 1st of September,
Okay.
and then I'm doing submissions after that again, so.
So are you envisioning that we would start work during the school year?
Mhm.
If that money, and it wouldn't disrupt those other classes that are somewhat already?
Yeah, we talked about that other side,
Yeah.
I guess, right?
Mhm.
Now, I know there was also a question about the outside of the building.
Mhm.
Have you heard I've heard differing things of what, how was it stucco or doing metal or?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we at one time had, we were talking about doing drive-it on the outside of it, and then with everything that went on, we said, would you consider making it all metal for us?
Right.
And they said, we consider that, that's not a problem. And
Who's
then,
we?
sorry, R&M Steel, who was
Okay.
doing the donating of
The
the building.
donation.
And then we got a notification from the city of Chubbuck, and they said, no, it all has to match the outside of the building, so we're back to drive it again.
Okay.
So,
We couldn't appeal that, or they were pretty,
And again, if, when, if we were,
would look
if,
at.
when we get that, grant,
they could make it look good, I mean, because it was a cost, right? I mean, it was a cost.
and again, with everything going on, we were looking at this project that we might have to phase it a little bit, but if we're able to get this grant, secure the grant, it would allow us to do everything that
Just
we
do
need to do.
everything.
With the exterior, that is a requirement, that they are gonna ask us to do that, so
Okay,
we'll find a way to pay for that. Yep.
okay, thank you.
Yep. You bet. Thank you very much. Okay, that's all I had for PV Tech.
And there will be 5 classes starting this year.
Say, yes?
There will be 5 classes starting this
Correct.
year.
Yep, 5 classes started this fall.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, just a quick, brief summer update. Again, we thought we did. We had a full summer planned before April 21st, and so we just, I commend all of our, especially the maintenance department, for their hard work, and even if the work was outsourced, they were scheduling and coordinating and so forth. So just wanted to hit a couple of the highlights. If there's any ones that you have questions on, you can ask afterwards. Again, our concessions and team rooms out at Century. The roof has been installed, so the walls are up, roof has been installed, and
Can I interrupt you? Were we supposed to get that attachment?
no,
or-
no,
oh,
this is, no,
no, if I-
this is kind of my internal my internal notes
Okay.
there, so I just grabbed it. But you're more than welcome to look at it, but there's a lot of detail that you'd, a lot of smaller
You never
projects.
know, I might be really interested.
You bet, and yeah, sure, I can share that with you afterwards if you like. So again, concession stand and restroom, I did hear that the football coach went through there and he was just amazed and thankful and how great that's gonna be, for the Century, the football coach. So he's very, very excited about that. We also went and met with, for the metal roof at Ellis. That's a new roof replacement. It's the largest roof that we've done. Previously, we did Jefferson and we did Gate City. And so we will be finishing after the start of school year. So we met with the principal and of course the contractor and kind of talked about where we needed to put equipment and communication as we go through there. But where there any hard drilling into masonry that would cause a lot of noise will be done after school. And so the principal, Miss Lane there was very accommodating and thankful for the new roof, and we anticipate that should be done just it's about three weeks after the start of school. So and most of it will just be the softened fascia there. I think I've updated everything on Highland, other than, again, Miss Judy asked about that turf field. We've got, the water issue dealt with. We've got a nice solid base there. Tomorrow, the crew that will put down the Cush drain, or the Cush field, it's almost like it goes down kind of like asphalt, but it's almost a spongy, again, a safety layer. That'll start, and then they'll be able to start laying down the carpet. Again, to hit our September 8th deadline, they'll be working the weekends, and even that carpet crew, since there's no machinery or anything, they might turn on the lights even, because it literally is, every line is sewn into that carpet turf. So they'll be able to maybe work a little bit longer to get that done. Yeah, it's quite the process. And just 2 more I wanted to highlight. One is at Wilcox. Again, they received a new boiler and HVAC units, and we initially had some delay in shipping that, but that will be completed before the start of school. And just wanted to mention just one that's been going on for quite some time. Again, a generator installation out of our Tyhee, and that 6 months to get a big size generator to run that entire school and the well, the boiler. but that will be installed in the next week. The initial electrical is done, and the pad will be poured this week, and then the generator set in place. Again, that's our only school that's on a well for its water, and so when the power went out, it was almost 18 months ago. It was it was all hands on deck, and we were bringing in a water truck to flush the toilet, and just realized, we need a generator so that school can have some water and flushable toilets there. So we're excited about that addition to that school. So again, that's just kind of a little preview. Everything is coming together again. We call it sprinting to the start line, to the start of school. And so appreciate everybody's help in our maintenance department and all the other departments. Again, if you have any other questions on any of the project that you're aware of, please feel free to ask, and then I will present, I believe it's closer to October, kind of a more lengthy capital improvement plan or summer project presentation. So, okay. Going on next, Mr. Chair. The legislature has increased our limit for formal bids. It used to be 50,000, and now it's with 75,000. And that's, I think, a lot of things with the increase of materials and so forth. And so we just wanted to update our policy 5104, our purchasing guide, to reflect that. Obviously, and that 75,000 is formal bids with the notification in the paper and so forth. Anything under that, of course, we try to get multiple bids to get the best price that we can for our taxpayer dollars. And so that just raises that threshold of the amount that we have to go, and it does cost us money and time to do that formal bid process. So this might be a little bit of savings there. Okay, the next two documents in front of you is to kind of solidify our agreements for our Highland design and construction team. The first is a draft document from, their official name is Architectural Design West. And you can kind of, they each use the AIA standard document, and that's kind of what is important there. Again, where there's a lot of different sections into that, we could dive in if you have any questions. The main one that I wanted to point was actually into their fee schedule, and so that's actually the second document, I believe, their fee discussion and schedule. And so you can see their percentage is. I was as we negotiated back and forth, felt that was very fair. Obviously, the higher the project, the lower the fee. But if anywhere around 6%, I was happy for that.
So this is their percentage of the whole project?
Their whole project,
Okay.
that is correct.
And is that comparable? Because you've done this in.
It is.
Thank you.
I'll mention that our work at Pocatello High School they were actually at 8%. And so I was really happy with this, 6%. Yeah. So we're excited there. And so that's, again, we ask for your approval of that contract. The next one is with Bateman Hall. Again, still using that same standard AIA document. And if I didn't tab it there, but as I look for their fee schedule, I believe it was 5.5%. Now I should have tabbed it there. But it is inside the document there. And again, I felt that was a very, very fair, for the work that they will be doing for us.
And what is the typical payment schedule? I mean, is it as things are completed, or is there,
Sure, excellent question. So with the architect, they have it in different phases. You're asking excellent questions there.
It's page 11.
Thank you. You're awesome, thank you. It's
Nice thought.
it's like design, and that's page 11 of the of the Bateman Hall probably. Is that one? Okay, so, so with an architect, they have design phase, they have a bidding phase, they have a construction phase. You know, they call it schematic or a schematic phase, and so that's kind of how they do that. With the, and that's how architects would normally do that. Of course, we verify and double check everything. With the construction manager, general contractor, theirs is typically a monthly one. Again, depending on the subs, you know, depending on the work that's performed and that they are, you know, submitting payment to us. Obviously, retention will be withheld, you know, 5%, so that we have that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on those two? The next one is again one of our off-campus locations that we'd like to lease, and that's with Calvary Chapel, located there at on Olympus Drive. And this would house our music programs, band, choir, orchestra. And so both the Highland administration and the teachers have toured the facility. And I've met with the pastor there and communicated with him several times, and appreciate their willingness, along with their board, to be able to help accommodate us there. So this is kind of, again, this will be paid by insurance, part of the utilities and part of the maintenance upkeep for that, for the spaces that we will use. Okay. And then lastly, again, as you receive a notification of,
Before you move on.
Oh, please.
Calvary, so it kind of relates to the previous questions we had.
Mhm.
I mean, not having been in that building, is it a pretty, I mean, the kids aren't going to have full access to the chapel. I mean, and who's going to make sure that doesn't happen? I mean, the rest of the building, right? Because they're in the basement, correct?
correct, they'll be on both levels.
I mean, you know, kids start getting curious and they wander around.
Correct.
And I mean, who's
We
going to maintain?
we will definitely ask, that'll be the teachers and administration, to work with that. We'll ask our, you know, our learners to conduct themselves at a higher level, since this is, you know, someone else's home, and because they will have access,
Right.
that they need there. So, we will have access to the building for security and so forth. So during lunch, you know, they, you know, won't be able to go in and so forth like.
I mean, I
like
guess
that.
my bigger question is, we can expect and hope for the best, but do we have a contingency plan for making sure, you know?
We-
I would say that goes back to the
Thank you.
previous question, and I think Mrs. Pettit will work
She's
closely
thought
with
through-
administrators
Okay.
and remind the learners that this is considered, you know, a house of worship for those,
Right.
those folks
Sure,
of that
yep, absolutely.
group, parish, whatever, yeah, congregation. And so I think they will conduct themselves accordingly, and if we do have problems, we'll definitely.
You'll know about it.
Address them.
Yep, we
And we-
will,
and we have-
will know, and we will take
Yep.
corrective action.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I've set up, at least through our office, you know, again, Highland administrators, you know, they're great, and they'll do that first line, but I have that communication line as well. I'll be checking in with our, you know, our leasers and say, okay, is everything going okay?
Right.
You know, just, and double checking there, which I'm sure it won't be a problem, but,
Very good, thank you.
great question. Okay, and lastly, again, Highland High School has been awarded $20,000 from the Dick's Sporting Goods Foundation. This I will clarify, and it was actually a stipulation of their giving us the money, that this will not go to, you know, fire. We have insurance, you know, for that and so forth. So this will be used to expand programs and buy equipment and so forth.
That's awesome, congratulations.
Sure. Yeah, that was Travis Bell and his work to do that. So
Yeah, no, H, Letter H, district safety grant
The
application.
doorknobs?
We do.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
interrupted
That
you.
was
Was
a-
you-
No, no,
I
that's
remember
good.
You got,
That's
back-
good.
We went back and
I
forth on the
remember in-
chapel agreement.
Yeah, my
so.
pa,
We did, we
I
did.
remember in the
Okay.
subcommittee how it was so many millions to replace all those doorknobs. So that is now a grant?
Correct. So,
That's
so,
great.
thank you. What that is it's again another, through our legislature, is called, Securing Our Future grant, where each school is able to, receive $20,000 for security and upgrades. And this kind of started through SIP, through our elementary principals. Again, 20,000 is a good deal of money, but as you put that to an entire school, it does get used up fairly fast. And so we identified actually our doorknobs, that in the event of emergency, rather than locking it with the key through the front in the hallway, that we wanted doorknobs that can just push lock in the back and be secured. And so we got prices for that, and even though we do have a locksmith on staff, but they wanted the state, meaning they wanted to see some progress fairly soon, so we actually saw how much it would cost to outsource that, and we got that price and put that to each school. Again, just depends on the number of doors, and it's amazing the fluctuation of those doors. And we did want to include all of the doors, especially at the elementary. If there's any emergency that you need to slip into a closet or something like that, you'd have a way to lock it on the back. And so that's part of the requirement, is to have the minutes of our safety committee. So this grant proposal has passed through our safety committee, and then it comes to our governing body and for your approval. And so it's our goal that, all of these, and I was happy to say, I think 3 of our secondary schools already have 90% of these type of locks, but it would give us an opportunity to upgrade the other schools in our district.
so what happens with all those doorknobs?
Correct. Yeah, that's,
Maybe there's an art project.
recycle them. I'm not sure.
Right?
It would be a lot of doorknobs.
A lot of
Correct.
doorknobs.
Thank you for that reminder. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you do. Okay, next on the agenda is the employee services, which will be by Carl Smart. He'll talk to us about Infinite Campus, IC, and Technology Department.
I'm going to be short in my remarks here tonight, and just to let you know, there are some things going on in the technology and IC world that you can be aware of. As far as IC, we're in the middle of our summer school submission, and that'll complete our submissions for the fiscal year 2023. Then we start, of course, into 2024. So we will have that. We actually have 2 weeks to get that done, and we started last week, and we have a lot of areas to finish up right now, but we will get there. As far as technology updates, talking with the technology folks, they have to roster every year. All of our kids go into different programs, whether it be for testing or for particular reading programs, whatever it might be. They have to roster, and they think about 95% done on their rostering already. So that's good news. So when we start school, those kids will be ready to go on each one of those programs that they are going to be working with on their computers. Chromebooks are deployed, so they're out and ready to be given away as the kids come back to school. I asked Kevin about missing ones, and he said we had about 100 come up missing over the last year. He says, which is good. He says we'll get some of those back because some of them will ended up in kids' backpacks at home, and when they come back to school next week, we have a one, and so here it is. But they're in good shape. And lastly, they let me know that the New Horizons camera project, they're going to be starting tomorrow, and hopefully have it wrapped up by mid-September. So that's all part of their their project list. So with that, I will conclude my report tonight.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, next item on the agenda, we have Human Resource Report by Brenda Miner. She report on hiring update, hiring reverse back to the Board of Trustees again, and annual employee policy review update and policy proposed 2023-2024 district leadership stipends.
Sounds like a lot, but it goes pretty fast. Okay, here we go. Tomorrow our teachers show up. I'm so excited. So for a hiring update, I can't believe this, but I can honestly say today that we are fully staffed to start tomorrow. All of our certified staff are hired. We hired 60 new certified. I was just kind of curious what that was in comparison to last year, how many staff members certified that we have. And this year we hired 60, last year 92.
Wow.
Right, big difference. So that's pretty exciting that these 60 people are ready to go. And as you heard from Kathy, they've had their onboarding, and we're excited to welcome them to Century High School tomorrow. So in the classified world, this is kind of interesting. I asked Diane, and bless her heart, Diane has been working tirelessly hours for classified, because if you remember, I told you in May that a lot of times principals will wait till this time of year to hire their parapros and those kinds of jobs. So from about mid-July, I didn't ask her for complete specifics because she was busy. So just till as of today, we've hired over 30 paraprofessionals. Food service, we've hired 12. Our clerical secretaries, both here at the district office, have been hired. Transportation has hired 7, and with one more that came in tonight when I was leaving, and I know they have a couple more interviews, so that's really good news because that would be 4 within the past couple days. So that's a good thing to hear for me. Maintenance, 3 positions, and custodial 1, and at Head Start we've hired 7. So just in about the last month and a week or so, we've hired 62 classified employees. So pretty exciting there. That being said, there's still some classified needs, and so I thought this was a great forum just to let that be known, that we do still need some building techs. That's the person who would be in charge at the buildings, and we still need one at PV Tech, Highland, and 2 positions at Pocatello High School. Of course, I can encourage for food service, bus drivers, paraprofessionals are still in high demand, and our principals are interviewing regularly. That being said, we were also able to hire both our district painters for this upcoming year. And so I will also be attending a job fair next week at ISU's that they've set up with the students coming back. I'm thinking that's a really good opportunity. I think that's an ideal bus driver opportunity, so I'm hopeful that we'll get some more people then. So any questions on that for hiring? Okay? And then if you remember in May, it seems like it was just a few weeks ago, but that being said, we're ready to have it be so that the superintendent you had authorized to be able so we could get these hirings all accomplished. And so now, as of August 31st, it will go back and automatically revert back to the board. Okay, and then the next piece for me, the ever popular policy review is out. I was able to get that out in July. There were some changes. In your packet, you'll see that there's kind of a list for all of you to see what everyone's expectations are, and then specific ones for different groups. So for example, maybe the coaches would have a different looking packet than the classified staff or bus drivers, and so just for you to have an opportunity to kind of look at that. The other thing that I made sure that we looked at and included is anything that changed as far as in any sort of House bills. Like there was something, if you remember the one with seclusion and restraint, that one, there was some guidelines as far as who needed what training, and we were able to take care of that with some of the groups through one of the things that was offered through the Safe Schools program, okay? And then the more specific training will be done through professional development. Questions? And then the very last one, this is the one that we have had in the past. There's very few changes on this from last year. This is our district leadership stipends. There were no added groups. The money has been budgeted. There was just a couple minor changes, and they're exciting ones. For example, the speech language pathologists, that we're able to have those full-time in person for our learners. Questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda, appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, First up is the board calendar for the month, and you can see, of course, we're meeting this evening. We have some planned reinstatement hearings for tomorrow night, and also special meeting with action on the bid request. And then we also have an executive session scheduled for you tomorrow as well. Tomorrow morning, we will be meeting at Century High School with the certified staff. We'll do 2 sessions just as a welcome back with them. The first beginning at 8 o'clock until 9:30, and then a little bit of a staggered schedule there to get people in and out. And then we'll meet with our secondary teachers from 10:30 until 12. Next week, we welcome learners back on Wednesday, August 23rd, and so we will be in full swing until September 4th and Labor Day. And then things really settle down that week and into the next. You can see we also have a tentative meeting scheduled for the 5th, depending on the outcome of our process for looking at the Highland High School project. But that would be to adopt bond language, and we would have our officials here that would help us with that, the legal counsel, as far as coordinating the exact wording for the bond language. On September 12th, community prevention, if you're interested, please RSVP to Ms. Johnson. And then we'd have our first work session of the year scheduled for September 12th. I think as we are putting that agenda together, it's going to be rather expansive, and it'll take a while to get through that, but we will make it as brief as possible, providing you information in your agenda beforehand to review. You can see, again, back into our regular schedule, student discipline hearings set for September 13th potentially. Just a holding spot again for you. Regular board meeting out until the 19th of September. Key communicators will be, our first one will be held on September 26th again, because we would have to notice for a quorum. We'll take the first 2 that are interested in coming in September. And then you can see we hit all professional, or excuse me, PD, and then the teacher conferences clear out until October 5th and 6th. And so that takes us out a little ways to just get back to school on your calendars and ready to go full swing. Next up is a review of the district facilities bond election options. We discussed this in detail last week at Century High School as we hosted a forum for a couple of hours, and were able to take some comments as well as field a few questions. The board initially entertained, we talked 5 potential projects, narrowed it down to 4, and subsequently to the 2, which we again hosted the forum and took input on that. You can see the various amounts, and the amounts that we've calculated are with the anticipated replacement costs of the structure itself at Highland High School. The bond ranges from 10 to 30 years, depending on the option, and we can, you know, as the board talks with the bond council, you can shore that up once we get to that point, if that's the desire of the board. And then you can see additional funding resources. Also, just as a reminder, you had an opportunity to look through the written comments that were provided by folks over the weekend through the feedback website, or link, excuse me, the email. And so I think there were 30 to 40 of those? 55. Oh, more than I thought. Okay. And so we appreciate that feedback that was given as well. We will have some opportunities. Maybe, I think there may be some questions from the board as follow-up. I don't know if we want to wait until the discussion period.
I would like to ask a few questions.
Okay, and this would be a good time as well.
For Mike, right?
Okay, I know that Mr. Balls will probably come up with our delegates here, construction manager and general manager Mike and Shay from Bateman Hall are here this evening. And so we'll field some questions from the board, because certainly, as we had a chance to discuss it last week, there were couple thoughts or ideas.
Misunderstood, I don't know.
Well, just some clarification. I think maybe that's what we need this evening.
Yes,
Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being here again.
yes, thank you
Yeah.
so much for your efforts for with the Gateway again. I just want to publicly thank you. They went above and beyond and to make that weight room ready for Highland, so we really thank you for that. So I was just wanted to ask you, so these are questions that came up as a result of the forum. Does the bid that you did for a new high school include all the sports facilities that a normal 5A high school would just a normal 5A high school would have?
So I got to start with, it was an estimate.
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Just got,
We're
just gotta
very,
make that.
very clear on that. It could go up or down a bit.
So
Totally get that.
what we heard from previous meetings was that you would be using your existing facilities, so it doesn't include that development. And it just depends on what you want to develop around it. Is it a twoplex for your baseball, softball? Is it a fourplex? You know, how many practice fields? So that kind of information need to be added to that, but it doesn't include much more than your landscaping and green space around your facility. Because right now, we don't know where you're putting it or how many acres it even is. So that's just your building package, and there's about $7 million worth of site development, which will include all your utilities, parking lots, infrastructure that you need for that facility, but not necessarily the fields. It just,
Okay,
it
that's
just
good to
depends on how extensive those are gonna be.
That's good to know because I didn't know that. And so I don't think that we ever decided that we didn't want sports facilities there, so I'm sure that would, anyway, a discussion that we probably should have had. So
Definitely not a stadium. There's probably green space for some practice facilities.
for baseball, soccer, that kind of stuff.
Correct, but not.
It was my
But
understanding.
you did not plan on regular sports facilities like tennis, like all the sports facilities that would be included in a 5A?
I think we pretty much, I thought we heard at the meeting that it was going to use the existing facilities at Highland still.
And I guess the only understanding that I had is they could still use their football stadium. There would still be a football field and track and everything. We have PE and, and the baseball, there
just-
would still be the facilities there,
Yeah.
just that if they wanted to continue using their stadium.
The stuff that's irrigated, I mean, your green space is gonna be irrigated. You're gonna pay a little more for the irrigation that it takes to do a practice field, stuff like that. It could probably be covered by what we have in there for those type of fields, but definitely not your baseball, softball, tennis courts.
Okay, so
That
that would
type of
be
stuff.
in addition.
Yeah,
Okay,
and those,
that's
you know,
good
those
to
are,
know.
those are more specialized and,
Because I wouldn't want.
and there's
my-
various levels of those too, so we definitely would have to have a lot more communication to understand
Yes.
just how far you want to take it. I mean, underground drainage, that kind of stuff, it gets,
Yes, for sure.
there's a lot of conversations to have there still.
Yes, thank you.
And the
I
size of the
did not
property
under,
too.
yeah, I
If
did
it's-
not understand that. I would not have, I guess, agreed to the fact that we didn't have sports facilities at the new one. So I guess that's something that we maybe would need to change, I guess. So my next question is, if we had, we just barely today had 2 more options for land options that would be immediately ready. Utilities, gas, water, everything, and zoning, everything. So in your estimate, if we were to, because this is something that parents are so concerned about, timeline, and so am I. Like, what is the soonest our kids can get back into normal classes? So if all of that is taken care of, permissions, everything.
So which one,
what-
Deanne? Are you talking the remodel or the new?
school.
The new school?
A
Okay.
new school, because I'm assuming that we have to get permits for even rebuild, all of that kind of stuff. But if everything's ready to go, gas, water, electricity, zoning, all of that is ready to go in a new property, what would be the timeline difference between building a new high school versus the additions that we talked about at Highland and then the renovating of, the existing to kind of tie in? Just everything we talked about with that first option. What would be the difference in timeline?
Jay, if I can have you pull that even closer to
Okay.
you, just
That
for,
would-
How's that?
that's great.
We're estimating about a year longer for the new facility.
Okay,
There's so many variables there. the site, where it'd be located, what's underneath the site. If it's built towards Chubbuck, towards the Portneuf with the, what I call Portneuf pea gravel, which is the great big rocks in the ground. If it's in the other side of town, Pocatello Creek, the clay, there are so many variables,
Yes,
but we're estimating year difference between the two.
just to be safe.
So you'd be looking at 2026 for the revamp of Highland High School, and you'd be looking at 2027 school year for a new school.
Okay, so 2026, 2027.
It's just more project too. It's significantly larger project with more site development. With the remodels, there's gonna be significantly less site development associated with these because the infrastructure's already there for adding on to these. So that's a big part of that additional 12 months that it takes too, and a little longer on the design time too, believe it
Okay,
or not.
okay. Because I was reading the minutes and it was actually closer in time frame than that, so thank you so much for that clarification. So the other question is would, if Highland was turned into a middle school, can you repurpose that existing building with the high ceiling in the library, the gym, like all of the things that are there? Would you be able to mostly repurpose that to a middle school? Is there enough square footage, all of that kind of thing?
I would say yes, but we're not designers, so we definitely can do anything that they draw, and you guys, as a district, program and do everything with. But
We're
as
used to squishing people into places.
yeah, and I think it really could. I mean, it looks very functional for middle school, and
Yeah.
there would probably be some things through the years that would have to be changed, but you guys as a district and the administrators would have to sit down with the design team and really hash that out.
Okay, thank you. And then the next one is if we go with the first option to rebuild Highland, is the existing infrastructure, this was talked about a little bit in that meeting, but I wanted to be clear, is the existing structure, if we were to add on to just everything we talked about, the hallway sizes, we talked a little bit about hallway sizes, common spaces, is what's existing going to be adequate to accommodate the other part of the school? The add-on part?
That's a tough question, so I'll try to answer it the best I can. Adequate, I would say yes, because it's worked for 50 years. But the building's 50 years old. The core is not built for a 2,000 student body to today's standards. I mean, when this question was brought up, it was brought up as Thunder Ridge. Is it adequate compared to Thunder Ridge? It's not a fair assessment because the buildings were built in two different eras. And can learning take place in it? We believe yes, but we're contractors. But it's not the same building. It doesn't have the same accommodations. It doesn't have the same hallways. It doesn't have all the same. So it's,
I'm sorry.
so for us to give us our professional opinion, could it be functional? Yes, it was once a very functional school for Highland. Would a new school be more functional to today's needs? That's up to the voters and you guys decide.
Okay, that's what I wondered, if compared to Thunder Ridge, if we, spent all the money to do the rebuild, if it would then kind of be up to kind of updated enough that it would kind of be comparable to the newer facilities around the state, since we are.
The new parts will be. I mean, the new classrooms, the new cafeteria and gymnasium, and even auditorium, those will be nice new functional facilities. But really the question, Deanna, is probably more for the people functioning in that facility now. What does 1,700 students look like now? From what we heard and just, our brief listening in on what you got is, yeah, they've been able to function with that pretty good, and you can probably add more students to that and still be okay. But really that's kind of an internal deal for how you guys want learning to look in your schools.
So more really a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
One other thing is, if we were to choose either option, if we were to choose, when we do a bond, we won't know if it's gonna pass. So would we be able to begin a design process of maybe have it design the gym that we want without knowing exactly, just would we be able to begin anything in the design process?
You really need to before you're gonna, you're gonna commit to a lot of money. And you really need to figure out which one you want them focusing on. You can, it'd be our
We'll do a
hopes
gym
that,
either way.
it'd be our hopes that if you guys know, with it being optional like that, you might not get much pre-bond design completed. What you might be able to do is do your programming and stuff like that. Sit down with the administrators, figure out, okay, how many classrooms do we need? How many art rooms? This, the kind of stuff that goes into the programming for the students you have and for the amount of students you're planning on in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And you could probably complete that programming, but I wouldn't encourage you to authorize spending any design time until you know where and what you're gonna design for.
Okay. So my last question is if the board decides to do the rebuild instead of a new school, would you be able to break it down into 2 phases so that you could immediately start beginning to rebuild everything that insurance will replace, which is, we already know, the gym, we already know what insurance will cover. Would you be able to do it in 2 phases so that we would be able to have, or is that not really, I know it's probably not as cost effective.
It's a good question, and we phase a lot of projects. This project, the rebuild's the lengthy part of it. So really, we're not gaining a lot in that process. It definitely could be looked at, but the time frame is really in the rebuild of the insured areas. And we gotta wait for the design and permitting and all that. And really, when you look at it, even if you're waiting for the bond, 1st November, it's still gonna put you in this, going to school, back to school that summer of 2026.
So really, the time frame does not matter.
You guys are going about the right way. You guys are being diligent, but you know you gotta hurry. You have the time in the next month to make that decision.
Okay, so that's another.
For your,
thing.
yeah.
Can I add to that, Shay?
Yes.
The only thing I would add to that is the way this is happening for the rebuild, you're phased already because these new components are in pieces that are gonna be very minimal impact to your educational experience because of your classrooms and everything. Even the auditorium, when you go to put that on that end, that's its own self-made phase right there because it's not interfering with the educational experience of the rest of the facility. So just depending on what options you end up going with, you're already phased.
I see. And so I guess really my concern is answering the question that came up over and over with parents. I want the option that will get my child back into school the quickest, and so I just wondered if we could phase that to make that happen any faster.
Well, you're gonna, from what I heard, you're gonna be back in school this fall already, right?
Yes,
Okay.
everybody.
So
I
it's
know.
just the additional amenities like the additional auditorium, additional classrooms, and then, of course, the 2 things that are missing right now, which is gymnasium and cafeteria, correct?
Yeah, I think a lot of misunderstanding is out there that saying, we don't want to do that because it's going to take too much time away from my child's high school experience. And they have all the classroom facilities, and it's not ideal, but a fire isn't ideal.
Yeah, to get to 20, even the shorter version, which is 2026, unfortunately, you got a class or 2 that this is going to impact, for every year of their high school career, unfortunately. But it is minimized because, again, you're still functioning in your school. It's just your additions that are being built on that.
Are we putting, this
Okay,
might be.
so I'm
in
done.
addition to
I'm
your
done with my
question,
question.
Deanna, though, is
Go ahead.
if we were just rebuilding what we're missing, no enhancements, just using insurance money, could we be starting building any sooner?
Go ahead, Shay.
I don't think so.
So we're kind of on track regardless.
Even if you cut the architect
Whatever.
loose tomorrow to
Whatever
do it,
Yeah,
he's only gaining 60 days.
yeah.
That 60,
But we
right
won't
now,
be able to get it
that
tomorrow.
that option, we're looking at being complete June, July of 2026. So we would be done May. It's not gonna really impact your
So
school
we're in
date.
the same time frame as far as
So-
getting back in.
So whether we do a bond and we go through the deliberations and the elections for that, or whether we don't, it is the same, essentially, the same end date.
But if
Yes.
the bond doesn't pass,
Then we just have what we have.
then
We have what we have and it's still the same end date.
Or you make a decision to,
Do the second one.
yeah,
and that's
do
why I
another
wanted-
election.
So what I was wondering, though, is just to be able to give the people that want that option for a new high school, especially since we have these brand-new 2 land options that are ready to go, like right now. I was wondering if we want to just do that bond, and the reason why, to give everybody their voice, to be able to say, do you want that? But then, if it fails, and we could do the other one right after that, that's where I was kind of going with the 2 phases, so that we could start, like
And
immediately.
I think that's more of a question for your other board
Well,
members,
no, what I-
rather
what I-
than
what I
pose to
actually-
these gentlemen here.
Well, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But what I'm actually asking, though, is if we, this is just a scenario, if we did a new high school, if we went for that, if it fails, and we decide to go for the other one, we're in the same spot essentially as far as, we'd have to do the other bond, but I'm wondering if we already know that we would be at Highland, we won't be at a new school. So that's where my 2 phases question came in. If that first bond fails, would you be able to start on that phase 1 immediately? The insurance money portion, phase 1. Jim, that phase 1.
So
Because
remember,
we already know we have the money for that.
correct.
But that's just what was burnt down. That's not expanding, that's not.
Exactly. And that's why I'm asking,
Correct.
can we break it into 2 phases?
I think this goes back to Mike's answer when he said you don't want to, you want to be mindful of the design phase and the cost of that. So essentially, if you're doing it twice over, you're going to incur those costs
Well,
again.
I guess what I'm saying is, can we do the design that has the potential to have that addition? And if that addition doesn't pass, we just stay with that first phase, and that's all that we have. So that's what I'm saying, is there a way
And so
to break
again,
it into 2 phases?
to kind of take it off the off the load off of these gentlemen. Again, so these are great and very experienced contractors. Again, that's more of a question of our design teams. The other one that isn't here,
Right,
just
okay.
as I didn't think they would needed to be here. But again, that's the design team,
Uh-huh.
and I think it would be difficult, in my experience, just to take what was exactly there and then to expand it. You maybe lose a little bit. For example, what do we do? Do we impact the existing north wing? The north section of the D wing.
Mm-hmm.
If we're expanding, that might come into play where it won't if we're just putting back
Right,
as is.
exactly, and that's,
So-
I guess that's my question is it a possibility to say, okay, this is the budget amount if nothing passes? This is the budget amount if we have the bond pass? So can we do that first phase, that we know we have the money for? And then if the bond passes, so I'm just asking this so we're not losing time.
I
doing
understand.
that second
I understand,
bond.
and that's definitely 2 sides to that coin there. I think that our design team would say it would not be ideal to start designing back as is and, now expand it.
Well, I mean,
Just
if
the
it
way
was
that the
too
gym
clear-
will be built and tied into the classrooms, hallways,
Because
some
that's a
expansion
given,
that way.
no matter what option, the gym is a given.
That is
Correct?
correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
I
But-
think we've done our best to answer that question without
Okay.
the
Okay.
architects to fully prepare something in regard to those comments.
Okay.
I
So
think
really,
we've got as much out of the Bateman Hall group as
Yeah.
we can that they feel comfortable in answering.
Yeah.
I do have 2 questions. So when you, in this proposal for the new school, what did you have proposed in your mind for the gymnasium? Is it just 1 gym, 2 gyms, or 3, or?
It's, you get 260,000 square feet, which is a pretty significant gym. And usually what that entails is a main gym, and you got a couple of auxiliaries with some stuff filled in below it. But again, this is us just, when we were asked to price a new school, it's just based off of what we've looked at in the past. It really isn't off of a particular layout, because we haven't seen any of those.
But you were-
So
you were
it's still
more than
subject to
one, Jim.
change.
Something more like what Thunder Ridge has.
It could be, you could make it like Rigby, or you guys can, Design West has several really nice high schools that you could go through and select from, and we could range them according to that size accordingly. And then you guys just, when you go through the programming, which is a very important step in this design process, you walk them through what's most important to you. What spaces are most important? What sizes do you need based off the amount of students you have? And that'll determine, main gym, seating capacity, and how many auxiliary gyms, that kind of stuff. I'm assuming you'd at least have 3 gyms,
So we have
a main and 2 auxiliaries.
Okay, so we have 195,400-ish square feet. Oh, wait, at Highland before it burned.
195.
Before it burned. So the new high school would be, the difference would be, what was that again? I'm sorry.
We use 260.
260,000
Yeah.
square feet. So that's the difference in size. It would go from 195,400 to 260,000. Okay, and I guess just to give it a little perspective, Century's 200 something, 230? Is it, what is it? I can't remember. Okay, now I can't remember, I'm sorry.
gym?
Madison's 225. I mean, it will be bigger with the new gym. Thunder Ridge is 250, so just to kind of frame it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
The other thing on that estimate, did that include any remodel for the Highland for, if you put Alameda Middle School up there? Any money for that? Or any money to remodel Alameda for an elementary school?
So no, we didn't put that into their phrasing. That would have to come through our SIP
Oh.
projects, or some of the,
The sale of the
and it could be,
properties.
Because in your B here, doesn't it say that
correct.
repurpose
It's
the
just
existing?
if you'd put any, I don't think you'd,
Oh, but you use both of those estimates for the
Well,
correct.
remodel and-
We'd probably use most of them, or insurance money to redo Highland, right?
Yeah, you got both. of those
correct,
in there.
yeah, so that would be, I think that's where we would get that money from. But then, of course, that would take away from a new high
Right.
school, so.
Right, I
Just
guess.
just
we
which
had
money
talked
to
about- oh,
pull
sorry.
from. Go ahead.
Sorry. I guess we had talked about the sale of the 2 to 3 elementaries if they were to be vacated into Alameda, and that money could go for the remodels. But everybody can stay where they are until we have the money for the remodel. Right?
Sure, it's just, the lengthy time to potentially sell those properties.
Yes.
So Jonathan, I have a quick question. So it kept being brought up that people were wondering how much it costs for us to maintain our old buildings, and that you were asked if our buildings were up to code.
Okay.
Some of our buildings are so old, right, that they're grandfathered in, so they are
That's
not up to code for 2023.
That is a correct statement. That's correct. They were up to code when they were built. We have been going through and upgrading alarm systems and so forth. What gets really expensive is the sprinkler system.
So some of our schools do not have sprinkler systems in them.
That is correct.
So that's what happened at Highland.
That is what happened at Highland on the D-wing. That did not have, that was a grandfathered section of the building and did not have sprinklers, did not have security doors that shut and so forth.
But we had the notification in those areas.
Correct, yes, correct. Yeah, we did have the area that did trigger the sprinkler. Yeah, there was some notification there that.
Right. So some of our schools we're sending our kids to, that's kind of scary.
And I think that you would find this across the state as you look back into facilities that are 100+ years old in
Right.
some of our communities. And so I think we've done very well as a district to try to make some improvements, definitely with our alarm systems. We're probably current in all of them.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
we've taken this definitely as a clear sign that we need to, make sure everything is as much as we can within the cost constraint. of that for alarm systems. Again, there's several different layers, just like anything. Again, but notification is to get our most invaluable, our most valuable individual, our live people out of the building through those notifications. Even the sprinkler system, again, does that, allows them to get out faster there, so.
So,
I mean-
and Alameda was fairly recently remodeled, and 50% of that building is sprinklered, is that right? From our last meeting? Half of it is, and half of it is not, is that right?
That I'm
Okay, maybe I'm
not sure.
remembering wrong, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I can definitely get
That's-
that for you,
That's okay,
so.
thank you.
But yeah, that's, as Dr. Howell said, again, we've had state officials that go into our buildings, and we're being told that, yeah, we're very progressive there with some of our notifications and so forth, compared to other school districts.
Okay, and what about, I don't know if you even know this, but as far as other districts being ADA accessible, like how good
How
are
do
we
we
at that?
compare?
Yeah, how do we compare? Because
I know with the older buildings that, that were built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, I'm sure they're kind of exactly like ours, that they struggle. That being said, as you know, we've systematically tried to upgrade 2 or 3 schools, at least to have the door openers and so forth, at least have one entrance in there, to be able to, to handle the ADA access there.
And I do have one more question, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is the special services, special education being moved to the basement of Washington?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay, or Washington, is it at Washington?
it is.
Washington, we have
Not special.
our Gifted and Talented
Gifted and
program
Talented.
that is hosted in the basement of Washington. We have one learner that has some special needs for access, and we're able to accommodate those through, Mr. Watson's right there, he's eager to speak.
Thank you, sorry.
We do have a extended resource room that is being put in the
Oh.
basement of Washington.
That's
start
what I
this
was
year.
referring
Yes.
to.
Do we have any accessibility needs presently?
We do not, no.
Okay.
And so we do have an extended resource room at Green Acres as well. So if there was a need or at another facility for ADA, we would just put that individual there at those programs, because they're placed at those programs. It's not by school, it's by boundary area and need.
I see.
Okay,
So it's the
thanks.
special, extended classroom is at Washington then? Will be the start of the school year?
Start of this school year, yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, being moved right now. Okay,
We had 3 of them over at Green Acres, and so we moved one of those programs over to Washington this year.
okay. Thank you.
Oh, I was gonna say one more thing. So I've been in the halls of Highland while they're changing classes. It's scary. Like, so when I went to school, I went to Pocatello High School, and it was not accessible. My brother had to help me in and out, because there weren't ramps or whatever, so he carried me up the stairs and down, and going into Highland, there's no room. And I know there's other kids that go to Highland that are in wheelchairs that have to leave their classrooms early so that they can get through the halls of Highland, just because their halls are so skinny. And even, I don't know, that gives me claustrophobia, and thinking about the fire hazard there, I don't know. So anyway, that's just a thought. And
They
the
are really
halls are
small. That's
really
what we had talked
adjusted.
about, to widen them. I don't know if it was you, I think it was a designer we asked this. I said, are those hallways big enough to, in the existing part? I think it was him that said, no. But I said, what would it take to make them bigger? Do you remember that conversation? And it was said it would be cheaper to tear the school down and rebuild than to try to make those hallways bigger.
You'd have to reduce every classroom size in
Yeah, I
each of
mean,
the
the
corridors.
whole
So,
entire-
yeah.
But was that a conversation between us, or was it the designers?
Kent Craven, the designer, answered that, but yeah, it's even more so than moving into the classrooms. I haven't looked at all the plans, but a lot of those hallways are your structural walls. So when you move those, you're impacting the roof and everything else. It would be a major cost. It's not that it's impossible, but you're starting to hit a new build.
But it would be cheaper to build a new building, is what he said. Is that,
In that ballpark.
okay, okay. Okay, I just wanted to, because I remember the designer saying that, but I just wanted to clarify. That's what my question was about, if we built onto it, is the existing really capable of handling?
400 more students.
Yeah, and I mean, are we building for the future?
Well, your impact to the school and the students to do that option would be immense. They would be impacted for 4 or 5 years, and it would be,
And they'd have no school.
yeah, regardless of the cost, your impact to the community would be huge.
Okay, so that's not an option. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then one other thing, like, everybody keeps saying we don't have the growth. We're not showing the growth for having a new high school. We passed the last bond in 1998, is that correct? So if you look at our enrollment projections, it shows on the flyer. In 1998, we had dropped, to 12, 13,000 students.
Oh.
And then Century was opened in 2000. We are past, just above or right back there, I think. But Pocatello has never seen this much growth, like building, this much homes being built, apartments being built. And I know that the numbers aren't showing that right now, but just if we're gonna be proactive, we gotta look towards the future and not just right now. I don't know. If we wanna keep people here, we wanna keep, my neighborhood is only 2 years old, and most of the families in my neighborhood are young families with young kids. And I mean, Tyhee, their enrollment has really gone up. I know, because that's where all the building is going out there.
And so while theirs is up, Chubbuck and Ellis over the last few years, Chubbuck this year more than we've seen in the past has had a decrease. And then Ellis is sitting probably in the mid 300s or less, and that school is capable of handling far more than that, probably 425, 450 even, I would guess, because it's similar footprint to Jefferson. When I was the principal at Jefferson, we had over 500 students there.
One thing that I would say,
And Jefferson
suggest
is
that-
low too.
Yeah, one thing
Yeah.
I would suggest in response to that is that kids, the reason I think, and I'm pretty sure I'm correct in this, the reason that there is not as much of an increase in the elementary is because of charter, private, all of those things that we have, that is not available at the high school level. So when all this new growth, all these new families, all these kids go up through the schools, it's when they get to high school that we'll see that impact. And there are not really, all of the options in high schools that there are at preschool, kindergarten, and elementary levels. So I know so many of my friends, put their kids in Grace until they get to the secondary, which is very, very common. Their enrollment goes at the middle school, once they get to secondary. 'Cause when I spoke to that principal over there, he said they just take a huge dive. Because then it's at that point that they go into the public schools. One other little thing I just want to say is a new high school is estimated at $135 million, I believe, at the very first. It's only $73 more million to do a new high school in scenario B than it is to add on to Highland. If you subtract your $115 million bond number from the $42 million. So
So Deanna,
Do you want to save this for the discussion part of the meeting when we get to the action items? It seems like that might be.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
I think that's to the point you are all at right now.
I'm
And-
fine with that. I just wanted to ask these questions that we had.
Okay, yep, and
misunderstood,
like I said, I think these gentlemen have provided a great deal of valuable
Thank
insight.
you so much.
for
Thanks
us
for
tonight.
coming. I
Yeah.
was hoping it would just be a phone call, but
Nope,
thank you for
it's
coming
good
anyway.
information for all the board members to have,
Yes,
so we
I-
appreciate that.
thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, and we can pick all of this up in the discussion, and you can visit as we get to that item in the action. And then, of course, I think we have some folks that would like to speak and address the board as well tonight. So just picking up where I left off, policy 3102, superintendent's cabinet. This would be changing the title from to director of communications. That one is, community relations and communications specialist. We've just updated that as the board took that action last month or June. And so director of communications is the change for tonight. Next up is the research projects and surveys. This is policy 6303. And you can see that that one has the addition of getting parental consent on any of those items that have to do with student sexuality, sex, religion, political beliefs, psychological problems, personal family information, individual family financial information. So parents would be able to object to that if they so desired. And so we want to make sure that we included that in the policy. Annual request to allow weapons and replicas in the schools. This is just an annual request of the board, and you can see that for various activities, whether it be track meets, props for drama presentation, replicas for mountain men assemblies, typically in the 4th grade, that they would be allowed as we have done in the past, but we need the board to authorize that. And finally, under item F, Friends Law Group, social media litigation, I would just maybe draw your attention to page 2, and it's that second paragraph heading, social media litigation. As Ms. Wilkes pointed out earlier, there was $1.2 billion settlement from the Juul company in regards to vaping. The district took advantage of that per recommendation from our legal counsel, and when that settlement was determined, our district did receive, or will, in 4 installments, compensation from that settlement that we will put back into awareness campaigns as well as in supplies and equipment to reduce vaping. This is very similar social media litigation. Again, just drawing your attention to the second paragraph. The coordinated lawsuits are against Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, and other media companies alleging that these cause harm to our learners who spend quite a bit of time on their phones. And so the board, the district does not incur any costs up front. This would be a class action lawsuit, but any benefit or settlement that's received, the district would be able to take part in that. So it's just authorization to allow this group in conjunction with our group out of Boise, Anderson, Julian Hall, to take this on behalf of the district. So we are recommending that we do that tonight. And Mr. Chairman, that's it for my 6 items tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Howell.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to public and written comment pertinent to the agenda action items. Written comment was received relative to the action items and is included in the packet. And I have received 2 requests to speak. And we will begin with Debbie Lehman. Debbie Lehman, she's not here?
What was the name again?
Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, Debbie Lehman.
Debbie Lehman? Okay, if she's not here, then we will move on to Neil Loveland.
I'll pass, except for saying thanks for all the time you're putting in.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so that, okay, now here we go. Okay, We'll now move on to action items. The first on the item of business is to adopt the Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25 roadmap to a safe return to in-person instruction in the 2023-2024 school year. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board adopt the Pocatello School District roadmap to the safe return to in-person instruction for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. That motion passed. The next item of business is to approve the alternate route for graduation requests. Is there a motion?
Hereby move that the board approve the alternate route to graduation requests as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. That motion passed. Next item of business is to hear the following policy on first reading. Policy 3102, Superintendent's Cabinet, and Policy 5104, Purchasing Guide. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on first reading the following policies as presented, Policy 3102 and Policy 5104.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. That motion passed. Next item of business is to hear the following policy on first reading for adoption. Policy 6301, Research Projects and Surveys, and Policy 8106, District Attendance Areas and Student Transfers. Is there a motion?
Your turn.
I move that we adopt policies as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passed. Next item of business is to hear the following policies on second reading for adoption. Okay, just want to make sure it's in the right place. Policy 8501, student discipline. Policy 8512, rights of homeless students, foster students, and equal access to services. Policy 8703, Idaho High School Athletic Association sanctioned athletic events and activities. Is there a motion?
I hereby move the board hear on second reading for adoption the below listed policies as presented. Policy 8501, Policy 8512, and Policy 8703.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion, any opposed? Hear none, that motion passed. Next of business is to approve the out-of-state overnight travel request. Is there a motion?
Hereby move that the board approve the out-of-state overnight travel requests as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. That motion passed. Next item of business is to approve the fall athletic travel schedule inclusive of annual secondary travel for state, national, and CTE competitions and college university tours.
I move that we approve the fall athletic schedule, including all the listed.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, that motion passed. Next item is to approve contract for Design West Architectural Agreement.
Hereby move that the board approve the Design West Architect Agreement as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I hear none, that motion passed. Next item is to approve the Bateman Hall construction management general contractor agreement. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the Bateman Hall Construction Management General Contractor Agreement as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I heard none. Okay, next item is to approve, that motion passed. Next item is to approve of business to approve the Calvary Chapel temporary use agreement. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the Calvary Chapel temporary use agreement as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I heard none. Motion passed. Next item is to approve the submission of the district safety grant application. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve submission of the district safety grant as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I heard none. That motion passed. Next item is to approve the Dick's Sporting Goods grant agreement. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Dick's Sporting Goods grant agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Next item of business is to approve the 2023-2024 district leadership stipends. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the 23-24 district leadership stipends as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I didn't hear any, so that motion passed. Next item of business is to adopt the district's facility bond option A or B. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board adopt district facilities bond option B as presented.
Now, I'm wondering, just a question, can we
Okay.
move to table this? And would that occur right now until we find out about these two new properties that we just found out about today? And then we could do it Wednesday when we come back? Is that where I do that? Can I move
Yeah,
to
Renee,
table this
will you
motion?
clarify?
Yes, I would still call for a second on the original motion. If we get
Oh,
a second.
okay, I'll second it. And then I motion to table
Okay,
it?
no. Is there any, now open for discussion?
Is it, yeah, I think that now would be. a
Now
good
would
time
be
for
when I
discussion
table
to
it?
see, I would actually just make a motion to table it, because if you second and then the rest vote, then it's final.
So before I make
Yes.
the motion,
So if you would
before I
like to
second
table it,
it?
then we'll call for a second.
Okay, so I would like to table it just till Wednesday when we meet,
And,
to be able to find out more information about these two
Do that
properties.
and
Wednesday?
we would not be able to do it Wednesday. It would have to be more than 24 hours.
Okay, okay, so our next meeting.
Is there a second?
To table it?
Table it? Is there a discussion?
I'll second the table.
Call for a vote.
The only other thing to, oh, no, I guess I
Yeah,
don't.
just a vote, because we had a first and a second.
Okay, but do we want to discuss or do we want to have a vote?
If you guys want to.
The only other comment I would make with the, as far as the ADA, is that Alameda is ADA, and the other elementaries that we would be closing are not. So that's just another thing. I would say.
Alameda isn't.
With that
They have a
Only get
lift.
into, Hawthorne does. Alameda doesn't.
They told me that they had the ramp in the front and then a lift to the second floor, Sue told me, with the remodels.
Alameda does?
Oh, okay, to the second floor.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
No.
realize it wasn't to all three. So just the top floor?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so it's not.
I only went to 3 when I was there, when I went to tour the building. Okay, so,
So I would like to make a comment, but I kept it pretty quiet. As part of the discussion, I think one of the things that Jim brought to our attention at the last meeting we had really resonated with me.
Yes.
I mean, completely shifted my decision-making in that what has been proposed in option B is reshuffling. There is nothing about new growth. There is nothing other than we still have 3 high schools. We'll still have 3 middle schools.
Four middle school.
Middle
Yeah.
schools,
So,
so same, and yes, we'll have fewer elementary schools, but that's never been kind of our focus of this anyway. And so, in my mind, I think building a new high school doesn't fix any issue unless it just creates just upheaval in the district. community schools, homes, busing, employment. But yet, the thing that does kind of resonate with me is that, you know, before the fire, we had been somewhat putting feelers out for property, knowing that someday we will need another high school. We will need a fourth high school someday. I mean, that's what's being proposed here. And so is it better use of funds and resources and timing, which is a big hot button, to put the resources into Highland, upgrade those certain areas so that it can have a greater capacity for some growth, and then we still look for that property? And whether it's the
I don't know
ones,
that we would still look for it. I would think this is in
well, it may not
place
be
of-
in the places you might have initially targeted. It might be in other places that we were looking at before all this happened.
I guess
And so it's, I think that's something that not saying that future growth isn't still gonna happen. We know that's gonna happen, but do we wait till there's more signs of that big growth happening? And where we have the PV Tech, which, as was brought up by Janie and many of us have mentioned, that it's going to offset some of the overcrowding in the schools. What was the average? 500, 600 students when it's in full capacity?
Out of the three high schools.
Out of the 3 high schools. So you've already eliminated some classroom sizes.
About 100?
So, the hallways,
Will it
that's
ever have
certainly.
500?
Sorry?
That's the capacity of the building, but are we ever planning on putting 500 at PV Tech?
Soon, probably
I didn't think it
350 to
was
400 would be,
100, 400.
So roughly 125, 130 for each, 130.
depending on how the
For
program
each.
grows and how many teachers we're able to staff with, because the CTE certifications are a little bit harder to come by because they have to have some occupational background with many of those. And so, yeah,
take
that
this
expansion,
a
I
lot
mean,
here
we
to
have
get that.
upwards of 20 classrooms possible in that space. And so even at 15 to 20 kids a classroom, yeah, you're talking 350 to 400 or more. Mhm.
The other thing that has weighed a lot in my thinking has been the administration. When you've had both Century's administration and you've had Highland administration saying that their school is sufficient and that it has met their needs, and if we can improve some of these areas that are, the auditorium, obviously, we've known for years does not meet the needs. But if that is made into, something that can be used, that again weighed really heavily on me, that there are things that the administration was not happy with where, at least I would hope they would say, if they were not happy, or if they were struggling in their current facilities, then we would hear about it. And I think, again, for those that are on the live feed, and it came up Tuesday night, why have we thrown Century's Gym into this mix? I think, again, this is something that we know that it is in something that has been, it was cut short in the initial build. And so, yeah, it seems like this is kind of from left field, but if this is an opportunity to boost these 2 high schools in our community in a way that benefits the entire community, that to me is what makes the justification, and I think the administration at Century would agree that that would be something that would really help in what their needs are there. And so again, I'm just trying to reiterate that so that those that still have questions as to why that Century Gym is being thrown in here when it was the fire that was the focus. But
Yes,
these are
that's
the
a good
things
thing.
that are, I'm not saying that somewhere, sometime, we will need that new high school. I'm just, the more I've thought and the more I've listened,
That's right.
I'm not convinced we're there yet. And of course, we'd love a beautiful new school. Of course, there's a lot of things we'd like to have. I don't think this community is gonna support a bond that size in order to do that. And I don't think we have shown by the data, by the enrollment, that it's, I've talked to some of the administrators, and if we were having lots of modular trailers at the elementary schools or the middle schools where we were trying to house all these additional kids, those would be the triggers that would say, you really got to put a focus in building. And we're not seeing that yet. And so I think that also is going to resonate with the community, and which is why I would rather focus on the rebuild. Let's fix those things at that school that really can make an improvement in the school day-to-day experience. and let's do it at Century too, so they too have that, you know, that we've already experienced at Pokey, and let's make these 3 schools. And then when the time comes, we still keep that looking for property, and it may not be the Northgate area, it may be, you know, further south, or, you know, my geographical.
Well, just so you know, one of the
Way off.
one of the properties that we are looking at is in Chubbuck, that is ready to go. Just
Yeah.
FYI.
And you know, so, you know, Doug had mentioned that there are ways you can do a first right of refusal or something on some of these properties. You know, there is still
Actually, I
future
take
to
that back,
that.
2 of the properties.
I'm
I
not
take
closing
that
the
back,
door to
3.
saying we shouldn't look at property. I'm not closing that door. I just don't think that a new build from, I mean, the disruption.
Yeah, I
So
don't think
I
so.
will,
would
I will,
agree.
just to speak to the 4 properties that I know of, that we don't yet know about, all I'm asking is that the board hear the presentation from these landowners, because it is a really, really good option. If you don't want to hear it and you want to go ahead and vote, that's fine, and I will, you know, we'll do the rebuild.
It's not the
But wait
property
a
that's
minute,
the
wait a
issue.
minute, just a second. If you don't want to look at the properties, this property is big enough that we don't have to rebuild another high school. We can add on. And we can make the campus that Doug was talking about potentially in the 1, if that is something that we want to do, build the high school and get that campus so that we have the middle school and elementary. That is a possibility with the, you know which property I'm talking, well, actually 2 of them. Actually 3 of them.
From our phone call today, just minimal, insight.
So we don't
I
have the details, but we do have absolute, for sure, 3, I guess, for sure want to sell it, for sure, and 1 that is going to present it to their partners, is what
And so I say, fine, let's have those presentations, but this would be for.
The future.
and they will not sell it for the future.
Okay.
They will only sell it for this project because it fits with the development
Do a vote.
thing that they have. So just so you know, one of the options, they are very particular. It's in a really, really great location, so they will not sell it as land.
Okay, as
So
part of our
just so you-
discussion, if we were in a position right now that we were growing so fast that we needed a new high school, I think I would be really all for that. A new high school, new middle school, maybe 2 elementary schools, whatever it would take to get us to where we need to be. But I'm afraid if we go out with this bond right now, even if it passed for a new high school, and we're committed to 20 to 25 years, and in 7 years, we realize, like here, somebody was saying that, okay, the growth isn't gonna come in the elementary, it's gonna hit junior high and high school. We haven't prepared for that growth. If we still only have a high school that's good for 2,000, if we still only have 4 middle schools, and we only have, then at that point, we only have 11 elementary schools, and all of a sudden, we have this great influx of growing, we're not gonna be able to go out to the public and say, hey, you know what, we just went out for all this money, but now we're gonna have to double that because we need another new high school, and we need another elementary, or another middle school, and people are gonna say, that's not gonna happen.
I totally understand what you're saying, Jim. The only thing that I would, I guess, respond to that is, the reason that I think it's wise to do this high school right now is because it can potentially grow a lot. And if we really had an influx of 2,000 high school kids, I can't imagine that, but I can imagine that we could build onto Century, there's space there. We can build onto the new structure at Highland. I can't see that in our lifetime we would need a new high school. That's just the way I see it, and so just in response to that. And one other thing in response to what you said, I have never looked at this about growth. I have only looked at this as, how can we use our money, the bond equalization, which is, anyway, I'll say that in like my closing argument. But how can we use this money the very best we can? And how can we get all of the learners into better places? Because we all are in agreement that some of those elementaries are just too old. So to me, this has never been about, do we have the growth to build a new high school? That keeps getting said over and over and over, and
that's
that's
what the public
fine,
is
but that's not the way I look at it. I look at it as, how can we improve the quality of education and the quality of the environment of our kids? And that's what this is, to me, about, but with that potential to have that land to be able to potentially add on if we needed to. So that's just a clarification.
But that's what the public is saying. The public is saying it's growth, and they're not seeing growth. And that's what they're gonna
Some
wanna
are.
look
I've seen a lot
at
that are.
real numbers, and it's not about just better schools or a nicer, fancier building. I mean, I would rather see the investment then go into making some of the improvements in these older schools. And let's, I mean, we do school visits once a month. I have actually been, now granted, I'm not in there every day and I don't see, some of the problems that might be occurring, but I think they're pretty amazing schools for, given the age and
Yeah, and I think those
our
people
maintenance
have
has-
maintained them well.
They've done
and those
well with
schools
them.
are good.
This has always been, for me, it has been about growth. It has been about growth for me.
Well, and me too, I've heard a lot of that I think when it first happened, that people were saying, let's be smart and do the right thing, and then I've heard parts of, well, we can build this high school in phases, and that's not smart. Or we can build a new high school and do away with the high school, and that's not smart. If we, I think that we're spending a lot of money, like you said, to shuffle things around and mix things up a little bit. And if we build a high school that you can add on to, that's good too, but still, you gotta have a bond to do that. You gotta have to ask for more money, and again, that's gonna be a problem. Okay, we have a motion on the floor
To table it.
to table it. And we have a
So
second.
we can vote on, and this is just to be clear, to hear about the 2 new properties that we don't know yet about, that you guys don't know about yet.
Okay.
So that's all this, the tabling is for.
Okay, all in favor of tabling it till,
A subsequent meeting.
yeah, another meeting, it'll be probably next week sometime.
And we have the executive session already scheduled tomorrow to discuss this. So that it will,
Potentially for this or either one.
anyway,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
perfect, thank you. Just so that we
Okay.
know that it will move forward very quickly.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Nay?
Nay, I just voiced nay.
Okay, so that motion failed. Okay, now we go back to the other option, or motion that we had?
Option B is what Angie suggested.
So I have to go back to that? Okay, so we're back to, we have a motion on the floor to accept option B, and we have a second.
Not for that one, we didn't get a second.
We don't have a second, and we haven't had discussion for that one. I will second it, though.
Okay. I thought you already did. That's okay. Okay, is there a discussion?
I would like to just make a little closing statement, just to be clear as to why I'm voting for this. I would like our kids to get out of older buildings and improve their learning environment. I would like to make Highland a middle school, so that we have a middle school in this area of town that doesn't have a middle school. And I appreciate the domino effect this would have upon the district. We'd be able to close 2 or 3 of our oldest elementaries and move those kids into a better place. In my opinion, they'd be in a better place because they would be in an updated facility. And the down payment of $24 million we won't ever have again. Another thing is that the bond equalization is over 27%, and it's been a lot lower than that in the past. What that means is that the state will pay 27% of our bond payment back to us. So it's kind of like a rebate. We will get that money back from the state. Other districts are taking advantage of this. And I would like to take advantage of that money being directed back to Pocatello as opposed to just Boise and all the other places that are taking advantage of that bond equalization that is, I don't know, a historic high. And then I would also like to say, I would like these facilities to be open to the entire community to use, which our facilities pretty much are, but to homeschool, private school, religious, that they can come. This should be an improvement for everyone and accessible to everyone because everyone paid for it. So if they, you know, the auditorium, if they have something they would like to be able to use an auditorium, they ought to be able to use it. And then another thing is a boon to real estate, that the first thing that people with kids look at when they move to a town is the schools. And I just think that our real estate market will see a huge benefit to this if we do this. And last thing is, so that is the reason why I would vote for this option too. I don't want the taxes to be raised, but with these other pluses, I can't see that. And just to address one more comment that was made at our last meeting, that land is not available, it absolutely is available. There are 2 sites, one is over 60 acres, one is several hundred acres. Those 2 are ready to go, and we could start building within weeks. They told me today. And the rest of the board members haven't heard that yet, haven't heard about this yet. That's why I voted to, made the motion to table it, to listen to those 2 options before we made a vote for sure. But just so you know that those 2 options were, I heard, and we have 4 total, but the 2 options that would be ready to be built right away are those that we heard about today. So of course, we haven't had a chance to have executive session for that, to talk about that, but we will tomorrow.
So may I respond to some of your, I think the disruption that would happen in the communities, the walking to school, moving them to a big school, would not offset a pretty, moving the elementary kids to the elementary. That's not a better situation, I think, for some of those families. The bond equalization will still happen with this other bond. It's still something we get to take advantage of. Community resources, if anything, it augments the community resources. We now would have a great auditorium at Highland that is not available, and use the facility that's already there. Pixton talked about the use of the gym at Century. There again becomes an enhanced community, statewide potentially facility. Real estate, we don't have the jobs here. We need to be focusing on that before we can, there's a domino effect with that. I don't believe it's our schools that are discouraging people from moving here.
I don't think so.
There's not jobs. I mean, we need to talk to economic development. I so appreciate what you're trying to do here, Deanna. I really do. I just don't think we'd have the community, because I was in your camp prior to last meeting, and then you start hearing people. We've read some of the opinions, and so there's my final.
So my last thing would be that we may not have the opportunity with the land, because of the building that the growth in the building that we're seeing right now. It's going to level out, and then it's going to fall, and the land isn't going to be worth as much. And so to take the opportunity to sell some of the land that the district has to help pay for, the new high school, I just feel like we need to take that opportunity while we have it before the economy says, our land isn't worth as much anymore, so.
And the one land option available is very close to Highland, very close, well, 3 of them are close to the interstate. So, anyway, if it wasn't for these land options, I think I'd be a little bit more leaning toward maybe the rebuild. But with these land options, my opinion changed. And especially knowing what they would sell it for changed. I thought it would be out of our price range, and it isn't. but they were very specific in saying that they would be very particular about what's built there, and we would need, you know, and so, no, they would not sell us the property. Even though it would be a really great option for us to buy the property, because of the price, that is not available. That is not an option, to be able to buy the property and not do the project on it. So just so you know, that is closing that door, and we will not be able to open that again. So if you're interested in at least listening to that option, I would suggest that we wait for the vote, but it's totally up to you if you do not want to listen to the option. But I was actually really surprised. Really surprised. I don't know, can I say what number you just gave me?
I wouldn't.
And
Okay,
I also,
well, it
we
was
did already have
significantly.
our
Yes.
motion and our vote on.
Oh, okay.
tabling,
Oh, yeah.
so it's kind of already
Okay, okay,
set.
right, you're right. So, that's fine.
So I'm going to make a motion that the board approve option A.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that motion passed. Next item of business is to grant permission to allow weapon replicas on school property for Veterans Day activities, starter guns at track meets, props for drama, presentations, and mountain man assemblies. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board grant permission to allow weapons replicas on school property for Veterans Day activities, starter guns for track meets, props for drama presentations, and mountain man assemblies, in the event these activities are allowed to take place as presented.
I second it.
Any discussion?
So is there a clarification that there is no explosion? Because didn't that come up at the Nutcracker did something on, but this is just school
Yeah.
activities, not people that use
No,
our facility
school.
and use, okay,
But we have addressed that in the rental agreement
okay.
since, yes.
Okay.
And we do also inform the board of those before they take place.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I hear none. That passed. Final item of business is to sign on to the Franz Law Group social media legislation. Is there a motion?
Litigation.
Litigation, sorry.
I hereby move that the board sign on to the France Media Group social media litigation as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I hear none. That concludes this meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, we are adjourned.